we've got to make sure that people believe we're worth what we think we're worth.
So Wayfinder's the name. What is it? Wayfinder.com?
HireWayfinder.com.
HireWayfinder.com.
Yeah, so what we do what we call brand messaging. So a lot of brands have visual brand guides. So it's it's your logo and your color palette and your fonts and all that jazz, which is great. But more people are going to buy from you if you use the right words consistently, as opposed to, is your logo aspect ratio consistent across every piece of your collateral?
Right.
Nobody really cares.
Right.
Sorry, designer friends. But I'm right. And so what we do is we help people figure out their brand messaging at the overall level. So how do we need to talk about your company in a way customers care? And then that distills down into service lines or products or whatever you do. And then we take that as the foundation. Then we build a lot of new websites. Lead generation, so figuring out how do we capture more leads in to buy our stuff.
Okay.
Email marketing, a lot of copywriting.
You know, like guerrilla marketing? Or is that even a thing anymore?
We don't typically deal with animals. Yeah. There was one time we helped sell some golden retrievers.
We lost, George in the copy room where the gorilla went wild.
Yeah, I mean, there's some guerrilla marketing. I mean, it's sometimes, this is how I started, is you got to figure out if you don't have any money for advertising, you don't have money, you have time. Mm-hmm. So how can you invest and go a little guerrilla? In today's world, I think it's easier, because you just show up in the Facebook groups and the LinkedIn groups and the places where your target audience is hanging out. Mm-hmm. Just show up and provide value, answer their questions, solve their problems, and then make it really easy for them to hire you for stuff. Mm-hmm. And then you'll start getting business.
I love those either it's a practical implementation of marketing in an environment somewhere you're already at, or if it's the whole thing was like classic example. Whoever was at Allstate and figured out we can put our logo on the net when they kick the football through the uprights. Yeah. It's genius. Brilliant. Right? I mean, just right there. You're in good hands. Yep. Oh my gosh. Perfect. I love stuff like that juxtaposition. So, okay, brand messaging, websites, lead gen, et cetera, et cetera. Did you offer all this stuff right out of the gate, or did you just stack those services on as you went? Or was it demand by clients? Like, hey, we love this and this. We also need this. You're like, great, we do that too. Fake it till you make it. Now it's a service. Or is it like, we hired that person? Or
so it was all variations of that. I did it all when I started, because that's just what StoryBrand told people they needed. Yeah. They said, hey, you need a lead magnet. So I wrote lead magnet. Hey, you need an email campaign. So they'd come to me and say, hey, can you do that? I said, sure. Yeah. You need a website. You need X, Y, Z. But over time, it's morphed into being able to, again, back before pre-pandemic, is being on site and taking teams to a whole strategy session to figure it out and map all this stuff out and getting a little more sophisticated, but also, frankly, be able to move more quickly. Mm-hmm. One of the things as creatives I think we underestimate is, if you can deliver great work faster, people will actually pay you more for it. Mm-hmm. As long as you get out of the hourly game. Get out of the hourly game, you can do it.
Yeah, we need to talk about that.
Oh, mercy. It's the worst game in the world. But the thing is, if you can deliver great work more quickly, you're actually immensely more valuable. And I used to be a little sensitive to that at first. Like, well, am I giving away my secret sauce, or are they going to feel like undervalued? And it's like, I had somebody you and I both know, a guy named JJ, said, no. He said, I've been in the room where they've paid somebody $50,000 to spend 7 hours with them. And then they are amazed at the volume of stuff that they can get done in 7 hours with the right person. Stuff they wouldn't be able to get done in 7 months on their own. Mm-hmm. And so once I figured that out, I was like, okay, now I know I can sell higher, I can sell bigger projects to bigger companies, because I know that I can deliver really good work faster, I think, than most people. I actually think my musician background comes into that a bit, but I deliver great work, and so I can charge a little bit more, and I can go higher scale. I can do bigger things. Where in the beginning, it was my first project. I wrote a lead magnet for a dairy farm in Idaho. It was like 3 Christmas recipes that are better with milk. It was ridiculous. Okay. I wrote a website. I wrote, what was my third? It's 3 or 4 that were just super like basic. But it obviously gets more sophisticated, and then you can expand out what you offer. So like right now, we're working on an expanded listing presentation for a real estate agent. They take it in and they close one new client, and that generates a lot of money for them, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a higher stakes. Would I have offered that at the beginning? I might have, because I just say yes to everything, assuming I can do it. Yeah. Except social media, because I hate doing that. Yeah. But everything else, I go, I can figure that out, and then I'd figure it out. But over time, it's just grown in terms of the scale and the scope, and sometimes the complexity of it. If you're putting out marketing plans, or sometimes email automation gets fancier, but you just learn as you go.
Yeah. Okay, so speaking of pricing, we got to go there, right? A lot of creatives, we like to just, we love what we do, so it's easy for us to be like,
Yeah.
Here it is, sure, undervalue. Here it is, undervalue. Or, those words of affirmation, that confirmation of we're good at what we, I'm worthy, great, awesome. And that sometimes is in place of what the value should have been. So we got hourly, we got project rate. I'll pay you with exposure. That's a good one. So, what thoughts and opinions? What do you got?
Aim high and modify.
Okay.
Next question.
Next question.
Just kidding. So I have a lot of thoughts. I think before
That's on the bumpers. I saw that on your bumper sticker. Aim high
and modify. That's my license plate. So but before we get into some of the details, I think there's a few things we missed. So in the freelance creative marketing space, particularly, there's a lot of rah-rah nonsense about charge what you're worth and raise your prices and you can do it. And that's great if you need to, I think, I will say, I do think a lot of creatives undervalue and therefore underprice what they do.
Yep.
Because we tend to think of it in terms of, this is what I think my hourly rate needs to be if I need to make this much money. I need to work this number of hours. So this is what I'm going to charge. But the reality is, one of the problems is we got to think more of outcomes as opposed to inputs.
Yep.
So stop thinking about the number of hours it's going to take you. What is the outcome of the result that client's going to get? Is your, $1,000 project going to net them $100,000? Mm-hmm. You underprice that $1,000 because it's also going to take you, frankly, I think a little more work to produce that $100,000 or whatever it is. So I think the first thing is stop thinking of inputs, start thinking of outcomes, right, to help you with your pricing. The second thing is we've got to make sure that people believe we're worth what we think we're worth, right? This is kind of
the ability to communicate that and carry that is huge.
This is kind of the American Idol problem. Remember the early seasons of American Idol? We only watched it because of the catastrophe that were some of these early contestants.
Yeah.
And what did they always say? My mama said I could sing. And Simon Cowell's like, your mother lied. Right? I've been taking singing lessons when I was 4. You should get a refund for 20 years of singing lessons.
Right.
You're terrible. But we sometimes in creative, especially creatives, we tend to get really precious with our work because we tie our work to our identity as separating who you are and what you do and separating those two things out. Mm-hmm. Because if somebody critiques our work, we think they're critiquing us. They're not. They're critiquing the thing we worked on. Major difference. You are somebody who does a thing. And this is one of the things we miss out in creative. This is creative work, which means it's a job technically. So just like
also means in many cases it's collaborative.
Yeah, and it was just like any other job on the planet, right? People are going to review and inspect and critique your work. I bet if a inspector comes out and looks at an electrician's work and they criticize or they mark it off a little bit, I don't think that electrician goes home and whines for 3 or 4 days about it and sulks and goes to all his electrician buddies looking for support like us creatives do.
Right, exactly.
He goes, well, I'm going to go back to work and fix it, and then I'm going to go home and enjoy my life. Right? That's what happens. It's a job and it's work.
Yeah.
So let's not forget that this is still creative work, just like any other job on the planet. We have to make sure people understand the value we deliver to them in how they experience things. So, for example, if you walk into a Cadillac showroom and see an Escalade, they're what? $70,000 or something, brand new, fully loaded, maybe more. That experience supports the perception of that price.
Yeah.
But if I were to walk into a Chevrolet showroom, and I love Chevrolet, my grandmother drove Chevrolet trucks, like everybody in my family's driven Chevrolet trucks. If I walk into a Chevrolet showroom and I see a brand new Escalade at a brand new Escalade price at a Chevrolet experience, those two things aren't going to match, right? But that's how a lot of creatives are. We think, well, people tell me I'm special and people tell me I'm worth a lot, so I'm just going to presume everybody understands that, and they don't. And so you have to make sure your experience from the content you're consistently putting out on your own marketing channels, whether it's email, social, whatever, your own website. Don't neglect that. Us marketers tend to be our own worst clients. I don't know if you ever run across that.
Like a pipes leak at the plumber's house kind of thing?
Exactly. You're starving children at the baker's home. You're like, wait a second, you own a bakery. Marketers are the worst about that. But the content you're putting out, the perception of things, the look and the feel and everything else, your prospect experience, your proposal, do all the things support the price that you deliver so that when they get to a price, it might seem high, but it doesn't seem totally unreasonable.
You also want to address price early on, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to wait till you've had 6, 7 conversations about the project. You've got a proposal. Yep. Now I see the price. And, I thought we were talking about,
Sure. And I'll tell you one of the really practical ways I anticipate that is I rarely send a proposal without at least talking to somebody. Usually I have 1, maybe 2 calls. But when somebody schedules a call with me, I have a few questions I ask. And one of the questions I ask them is, what's your annual revenue? And it's like 0 to, I give them ranges, 0 to 2, I think 2 to 10, 10 to 50, and maybe 50 plus. And I just stole that from somebody else. So that's not original to me. So if they give me a $0 to $2 million range, And I'm thinking, okay, the average company is going to spend, let's say, a benchmark of 10% on
10% on marketing, yep.
for their annual budget or their annual revenue. So if they're $1 million, they're going to at most spend $100,000 a year on marketing, probably less at that point. The bigger you get, the more you spend, percentage-wise, according to a bunch of CMO surveys. But if they tell me 0 to 2 million, I'm not going to quote some $35,000 deal because that's going to be way out of, for one project as part of the year. That
doesn't make sense. Unless it's a 6-month engagement or
but
something.
But if they're a $10 to $50 million company, a $35,000 engagement doesn't sound so crazy. So I can adjust my offering and my value pricing based on where the client is. Knowing revenue actually helps. And then I can start to back into on the sales call, okay, what are your goals with this? What are you trying to accomplish with this? What is the output of this? What is the results? And then start tying my work to their results as opposed to my work to just my work on an island. Because if I tie to their results and they think, okay, I could make $1 million, this is going to help us make an additional $1 million over the next 12 months. All of a sudden it's like, okay, this price doesn't seem crazy at all. In fact, we need to spend that in order to make this. And so that's a lot of things to start answering your question. Now, in terms of actually doing it, I don't know that I've ever done hourly pricing. I do all project-based.
Yep.
So, there's some things that like I've tried to productize. So if you want this, it's this price typically.
Yeah. Or it's kind of like package, right?
This package. It may range a little bit based on your size. And frankly, if I have more people in your company that I have to talk to, it's going to cost a little bit more because that just takes longer and it's a little bit harder.
Yeah.
But if it's one person, you can use them up quicker. So we have packages that range. But then on the stuff, like you, somebody says, hey, can you make a video for us? You're like, wait a second. What's the price on that? Well, are we shooting on your iPhone like this, like a selfie video? Or are we doing a full-scale production? I don't know. I can't give you a price. Again, same answer as what underwear do you wear at age 95? Depends.
Yeah.
So, we have some other ranges based on things, but it's all project-based. I would say, and this is something a friend of mine does and I actually need to move towards, is have project-based pricing, but just spread it out over a certain number of months. Don't make it some ongoing retainer, but make it more of a month, like an installment agreement, like 6 months for, $5,000 a month for 6 months. They can plan for cash flow. You can plan for cash flow, and it doesn't just, you don't get this weird thing of specific milestones.
Yeah.
So I would say as creatives, I would look more towards that. Maybe it's
installment model.
Installment model, yeah. Where a set price paid out every month for a set number of months helps you.
And that's different from
stability.
A retainer.
Right. A retainer is like,
here's a flat rate, it's tied to nothing, and we're just going to throw stuff in there.
It's, for this price, we're going to do this amount of things a month. And then it just becomes in perpetuity.
Yeah.
Agency owners, bring it in. We are not factories. We do not run assembly lines. We're not running Lean Six Sigma to increase efficiency. We are trying to deliver things that our clients need to solve their problems, not what we need to solve our business problems. So retainers can be great as long as you know to deliver what your clients need and not what your bottom line needs. We're not an assembly line.